The City Vent. The City Vent.
The City Vent.
You're listening to The City Vent.
It's the City Vent.
The City Vent.
You are listening to The City Vent.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of The City Vent. Thank you for tuning in. I'm with my co-host Chris.
Hello, how are we doing?
All right, mate, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. Good week, and some interesting stuff come out this week, hasn't there? Really?
Yeah, a few bits and bobs. Obviously, we had the interview with Sparks that seems to have gone pretty well. People seem to like that on Twitter. But looking at things more at the club, 2 players, Luke Hendry being the first one.
Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that he's been offered a 2-year deal. I only see him as backup. I don't see him in the first team. Don't think he's got the quality to be in the first team. When he first came back to the club, he did actually look. He was rather good because he was sprinting up the wing. He looked like he was getting involved with the wingers. He's prone to a mistake or two. A 2-year deal, I'm surprised at. I've got to say, I'm quite surprised that he's got a 2-year deal. But, it's more additions. I don't think that... Well, he's not going to be a first-team player, is he, for a starter? So I don't think we need to worry too much about that. It's just more bodies that we have got still.
Do you not think he's going to be a first-team player then? Because obviously, signing a 2-year deal at the age he's at, do you not think he's trying to nail down that right-back position, or do you not think he's got a chance of it making it his? Because who else have we got in that position, really?
I just don't see it. I just don't think that he will be the right back next season. I'll be slightly disappointed if he's the right back next season, if I'm honest. I think there's Cousin Dawson, but it looks like he's going on loan, isn't he? Obviously there's Oscar Vrelkel, but let's face it, that's not going to happen. I feel like it's probably the weakest position we've got, but maybe it's the one that we've got too many of at the moment. So, yeah, I would be surprised, but obviously the club have seen something in him to give him that initial 2-year deal, which, by the way, have you noticed that all these contracts that have been signed have said initial rather than a 2-year deal? So it looks like the club are, looking after the future and seeing it as a 2-year, and then the club can decide whether they carry on a 2-year deal or not.
So putting that option clause in where they can, extend it if the club want to, I guess, and protecting their interests as well as a player. So, yeah, I'd probably agree with you, to be honest, on Hendry. I think, I don't know, I'm on the fence a little bit with him. I'm not overly impressed. I think if you've got ambitions of going up and being at the top end of the division, I think you want better. I think if you were bottom 10 in League Two, I think is a pretty solid addition. But I think we probably need more, especially when you think about forward capacity. Somebody that can drive the ball forward, like you mentioned, and whip it in. I feel like there's probably better out there at this level, but we'll have to see. So from that one, we'll move on to the other signing. We've paid money to Walsall for Emmanuel Osidibe. You can
Osidibe. Again, another mixed bag, really. So, if you looked at Walsall fans, if you looked at what they said, inside joke. If you looked at what they said, they was very mixed. A lot of them were quite happy he was going. A lot of them said that he had an attitude problem, complained about him, said he was quite lazy at times, scored a couple of great goals for them. So yeah, I think we brought him in because he's very versatile. He can play in the middle, but he can also play down the 2 flanks. I know that he was at one point playing right back last season. So again, that's another right back that's at the club. I see him being, again, another impact player that maybe comes off the bench. An interesting fact for you about him, by the way. So he went from Dundalk. He never actually signed professional terms with them, but he went to Spurs and he went to their foundation. Gillingham signed him. They played him in a game and they won 4-0 against Sheffield United. Anyway, they'd registered him with Dundalk, had Gillingham, and they nearly got a big fine. They nearly got points deduction because of it. He was also one of the players that left Macclesfield when they were going under and just left because they'd not paid him, which obviously he's got absolutely every right to do so. but he is worthy of a worldie or two. So it sounds like in his career he has scored a few worldies. But also the other thing as well with what Walsall fans have said is that he has played pretty much every game for the last 2 seasons. So there's got to be something. There's got to be a player there, and also for us to spend money on him, there's got to be a player there.
It's interesting because, like you say, and you alluded to, there is a lot of negativity on Twitter when it comes to it, and it's pretty much 90% of their fan base that are saying the same thing. I did have a couple of inboxes from some people that were a little bit more level-headed with it, saying, yeah, it can be magic on his day, but it's like 2 out of maybe 10 games. Attitude problem-wise, we've had these players before. It's not always worked out for us as a club. However, Mark Hughes has handled much heavier, hasn't he, in regards to ego and stuff like that. So will he be able to get a tune out of him? I think he will. Is he going to be a starting player for us? For me, potentially not. But it's an exciting player, somebody that can get you off your feet. And if you look at some of the, like you say, the compilations and goals he scored on YouTube, I think is exciting. And I'm looking forward to see what he's got. And for me, I hate this bashing players. Everybody's welcome to their opinion on Twitter, and if you've got the right to do it, it's just not for me. I like to see the player in person first before I make a judgment. Don't get me wrong. Looking at players that we've got, like your Threlkelds and other people, I hate saying his name every time, but other people that have not cut the mustard at City, I will say I don't think they're good enough. But I feel like before they kicked the ball for us, it's a bit unfair, personally. Chris, pass that on to you.
Yeah, listen. It always seems to be the way, doesn't it? And, I think sometimes we're expecting superstar signings. It's not always going to happen. Let's remember, we are in League Two. He's a player that has, like I said, has played regularly all the way pretty much through his career. It's about giving them a chance. And I tell you, I absolutely agree with you 100%. We've got to see him in our colours first. And I know he's not your favourite player, but Andy Cook, for instance, when we signed him, I know there was a lot of abuse about when we signed him from Mansfield because, well, why are we bringing in a reserve player from Mansfield? And those opinions were changed very quickly. Also, Adam, I will mention it on this podcast that if anybody else reckons Adam does look like Andy Cook, absolutely does. So, but you're right. We need to see these players in face value first. Let's give them a chance. The club have gone out of the way to bring these players in. The fact that we paid money towards him, they know better than us. They do. I know we think we know best, but let's give them the opportunity. If it doesn't work out, you're absolutely right. Then we can start slating them.
Yeah, totally with you. So just to sort of finish off on recruitment, a couple of bits. Now, there has been a bit of a release in the Daily Mail to say that Fulham and Southampton are chasing one of our youngsters. So Ryan did allude to this last time on the pod. There's a lot of interest in our younger players, which is obviously great. But should we be getting more out of the players when they're with us? Should they be, should we be trying to keep them or should we be cashing in? So it's a chap called Freddie Jeffries in our academy. I think he's 16. Do you know much about this one, Chris?
Again, from what I've seen is he was part of the under-19 team that won the league. He seems to score quite a few goals. I know that, for instance, Bobby Poynton is always mentioned in the young team. So to me, from what Ryan was saying last week, I got the impression that maybe there was a couple of players. I imagine that this is one player that is probably, is going to be signed for a Premiership club. Again, that's going to be more money towards club. But as Ryan said last week, this is what's happening now because of all the EU laws. And, they are looking through, League One, League Two sides to see what kind of talent there are. And especially when that team, they were fantastic last season. It doesn't surprise me, but that there is that interest out there. And it's whether he was one of the players who was offered a contract and whether he's now obviously being offered a contract elsewhere. Unfortunately, that's the game at the moment. There's not a lot we can do about that, but just hope for a big payday.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, 250 grand for us at this level is brilliant. If you can get 3 or 4 of them every season, you're laughing, really. But should we be cashing in? Should we be doing more to try and keep them? But how can you stand in the way of a player, at that age, and they've been approached by a Premier League club? I can't see us, a lot of people are saying on Twitter, should we be keeping them? But I just can't see us being able to do that. And if you do, you end up upsetting the player and they don't want to be there anyway. So, there's only so far you can go with it. And I just don't think that we have, the finances to support that either, personally, at the minute. And I feel like cashing in is probably a good option. Chris, your choice, your opinion on that?
Yeah, again, you can't stand in the way. If that money's coming in, it's guaranteed money to a certain extent. There's not a lot we can do. If a young lad is being offered a job, a club that's in the Premiership, where they're going to want to go, I completely understand it. There's not a lot we can do about this apart from it's sadly it's a payday. There's nothing else we can do about that, and just hope that they do really well. Obviously, it's frustrating because you want to see these young players coming through the team. Maybe this is potentially why we've not had as many come through. And I imagine it. It's not just Bradford City we're struggling with this. It's League One, League Two sides are going to be struggling with this constantly. So it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to really comprehend.
Yeah, and there's not going to be much released on it either. There might be a piece in the TNA if it happens, if it doesn't happen. But as Ryan said on the last pod, we're not going to hear much from the club because they don't speak about obviously players under 16 years of age. So we'll have to just see what happens. And obviously, they're doing something right in the academy, though. They're developing these players the right way. They all seem to be doing pretty well. So we'll just have to watch your space, I guess. But we'll just see on recruitment, just going back to that one, I guess we'll just see what happens over the coming weeks as well. I don't expect to see much over the next week, personally. Not that I know anything, because I don't. But I feel like we've done a lot already. And I feel like maybe the rest of the players, we're waiting on them a little bit. There has been a bit of a teaser on Vernon and Pereira as well that I think we should quickly talk about. So Vernon, somebody spotted him on holiday and tweeted him, and he tweeted back saying, have a good holiday, and put a couple of beers. And I don't know, maybe we're reading a little bit too much into it, but to me that means that there might be something in it, him coming back. But does that mean that we're going to get him and Pereira? So on about Pereira as well, on the second note, Pereira has obviously been posted a video training in Bradford City kit from last season. And he's put a few winks and a couple of likes here and there. And I think Mark Douglas, who's a journalist, put something out saying that Pereira does want to move back. I don't know who he sourced it or where he's got that from, but it's interesting. I think he has got unfinished business. And I think Pereira, out of all those four players, you're looking at Powdy, Watt, Burnham and Pereira, I think he's the one that may just come back. Chris, I'll fire that to you.
Yeah, well, Pereira was seen his pre-season training, so he's calling it, isn't he? Was it? Am I right in thinking that he had his training kit on, Bradford City training kit on? And Mark Douglas probably knows he's from somewhere because he's Newcastle Chronicle, or he was anyway. I'm not sure if he is still, but he's a City fan. So whether I'm more hopeful about Pereira. I don't know why, but I just got this feeling that there's something going on. Talking to the lads from the Luton podcast, they seem to think there might be something going on there as well. So we'll see with that one. Then it's 50-50. I just can't read it. Just can't read whether he's going to stay here. I've got a feeling still he's going to go to Lincoln, and you wouldn't blame him for that. It's gonna, we're just gonna have to see. I'm sure we're gonna find out in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we've got the kit coming out. Would one of these players be shown with a kit when it's brought out? Maybe, I don't know. I'm completely guessing there. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I think we'll be in a better position this time next week. I think we'll know a lot more about what's going on.
Thank you, Chris. So this is a new feature this week. We've got a fan on that's going to join us. We're going to do this over the coming weeks as well. So if anybody's interested, feel free to drop us an inbox and we'll look to get you on. So the fan that we've got on this week is Craig Andrew, otherwise known as South Coast Bantam, I think, on Twitter. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah, you got it, yeah.
Thank you for joining us, mate. I think you were quite keen to come on, talking about football. I think it's something you like to do. So any opinions on what's going on at the minute at Bradford City?
Yeah, it's quite an exciting time, really. And I know we always say this at the beginning of pre-season, like, I don't know, we're probably the most optimistic fans out there, Bradford City fans at the start of the season. So it slowly fills in with pessimism after about 3 or 4 games. But, we start off very optimistic. However, this has got a proper ring about it. We've got a manager who's, Premier League class, let's face it, in charge, who started to get us playing well towards end of season with what were, some average players there. The players he's brought in, they're not big names, but someone like him, you trust his judgment with who he's brought in. So, yeah, I'm positive. I was glad we got Jamie Walker tied down. I know there's a lot of pressure on getting Charles Vernon down, but, I think we've got enough quality. Issa, if he's fit and ready to go again, I don't think Vernon will be a big loss. Same with Powdy O'Connor, I know a lot of fans like him, but he's prone to a red card. I mean, I were there at Colchester when after being booked to just dive straight through the back of someone. So, I think probably somebody with a bit more of a wise head on his shoulders at the back. I don't know what Platt's like, but maybe one more signing at the back, and I think we're not far off, to be honest with you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it, mate? And when you talk about South Coast, whereabouts are you based? Because obviously you've got a Bradford accent still, which we're proud of. We like that, mate.
Yeah. Although my lot call me a southern softy now, but yeah, I'm down in St Leonard's, which is right next to Hastings, and then but I was in Brighton beforehand, so I've been down here since 2006. So and as you can tell, accent's mellowed after all that time. So,
a little bit. It's still there, mate. It's still there.
Bright sunshine, beach, can't really argue. Every time I come up north and I see the house prices and stuff like that, it's tempting. But then yesterday I was walking on beach, in water, and you can't replace that really.
So Craig, yeah, completely. So Craig, I'll ask you. So how many do you get to go to many City games at the moment? Obviously, since you've moved down there.
Yeah, well, whenever I go visit, I always structure it around an home game. So, my family, it's nice to see them and that, but I always make sure there's an home game on. It has to happen. And the plans for the Saturday revolve around, seeing me on the way to Bradford and all that lot. And we've got a fair few away games this season because it depends on who stays up and goes down. Sutton not going up is actually quite a good thing for me because it's not too far. It's literally a stone's throw from my father-in-law's house in Sutton, so I can get to that. Crawley's not a bad one to go to. Gillingham, Colchester's not too far, so I get to a few. It's quite nice actually. Not as many as I'd like to though.
And are you all set up for hosting me and Chris when we come down to the Sutton away game? Have you got that spare bedroom ready?
What at my father-in-law's? Yeah, well, he's got quite a big house, so I'm sure we'll be able to sort something out. Yeah, definitely.
I'm only kidding, mate. But who knows? We might get on road a bit next season, so it'd be nice to travel a bit. And it's a new away day for me, Sutton. Never been. So what about you, Chris? Probably new as well, I guess.
No, I've not been to Sutton yet. That's definitely on my list to go down to. I mean, like I said to Craig, I used to live down south, so a lot of the games I used to go to Yeovil used to be.
Wow.
An enjoyable one, or I'd say an enjoyable one. I don't think we actually won.
I don't think we get many points there, do we? No.
Is that where John Terry's brother played as well at that point? He played for him, didn't he? I'm sure he played for him.
Terry's name, yeah.
Remember him in green and white. Interesting. So, last question I've got about where you live: fish and chips. Down south, right? Do you have bones in fish and chips? Do you have the bones in the fish and the skin?
Depends where you get them. So if you get the ones which are where all tourists go for the fish and chips, they're, it could be from anywhere at fish. But there's a few places where actually it's locally caught fish. So in Hastings, we've got a proper fishing industry down here. Right. So if you go to the right fish and chip shops, you get some proper nice fish. It's got bones in it, but only small ones. But it's the price you pay for the taste, I'm afraid.
What about the skin? Do you have skin on as well?
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, of course. And if you can, get yourself some fresh mackerel or fresh bass. Cook it yourself. Easy does it. Yeah.
I'm an haddock man, me, Chris. You're probably a bit more adventurous when it comes to food, I imagine. But yeah, haddock all the way for me.
I do try, but I tell you one thing that Southerners do. They do like to have a lager top, so they do like to have a bit of lime in the lager.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that, and I'm also not a fan. And I do, the pubs that I go to, they know me enough now that I don't want none of those skimmed pints. I want a body on it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I used to take my own sparkler with me. So the thing that goes through the beer because it was just so flat down there. So I would actually ask them to do it and have to show them how to do it. But I completely understand your pain there, mate. Honestly. Yeah.
No head on a pint. I don't know what they were playing at, but yeah, as I say, nowadays the pubs that I go to, they're straight on it. So I don't feel like they're robbing me out by putting a big head on it. Yeah, no.
They don't want any Bradford aggro, do they? When you come,
no, definitely not. No.
So getting on to Bradford City talk then. So the first thing I want to ask you is if your favourite Bradford City moment. So this could be anything in the history of you supporting them.
Do you know? There's been a fair few. Lots of ups, lots of downs. 2 administrations, promotion to Championship, to promotion to Premier League. But I'd have to say I was quite fortunate to get a ticket to Chelsea away. So a good friend of my mother's queued outside Valley Parade when they were doing tickets just to give me his ticket. So I was really fortunate to go there. And I would actually sat with random Bradford City fans because it was kind of the ticket allocation, and there was this fella next to me, and we were 2-0 down, and I was saying, if we get a goal, I reckon we can come back, and, and lo and behold, John Stead pops one in, and then the rest of it's a blur. To be honest with you, I had to watch the highlights to see who scored the goals because it was just chaos. And I couldn't speak for about 2 days afterwards, and it was just. I think for most football fans, if you could go to any game, I think quite a lot, or even neutral fans, would have picked that game. It was just a fantastic place to be. Great atmosphere.
I could say I was there as well that day. It was just still, even now, I remember at half time we were talking to a couple of fans, and we said, you know what, we'll go home now. We've scored our own goal at Stamford Bridge. Let's go home. And that second half was just crazy. And I just remember walking outside the ground, and hardly anyone, everyone was just in complete disarray. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I've never gone to a game like it before. Just where we actually played good football against them. This is the thing; it won't just lumping the ball up and to Stead and hoping it sticks, and then get or catching them on counter. We actually, I mean, you look at that fourth goal that Mark Yates scored, where we threw it in. John Stead holds it up, back heels, and then Yates finishes it with class. We just played them off the park, and this was a team that Mourinho had never conceded 4 goals at home. They'd not lost home all season, and we went there and battered them really. That second half, fantastic game of football.
Unbelievable. And I think a lot of people now, we bring it up, don't we, every year, like the anniversary of it, and people say not this again, but it's amazing really. For me, it's the biggest FA Cup shock of the circumstances. You're away from home, 2-0 down against, like you say, the champions of England, who haven't lost at home, and you come back and win. So for me, it is the biggest shock, and I feel like we should celebrate every opportunity personally. But yeah, so it's a good place to start that, mate. So I'll move on to the second question. Yeah. So this one's obviously up to you in how you answer it, but funniest moment following Bradford City. So it might be something you've seen or something you're involved in. Totally up to you.
Oh, funniest moment following Bradford City. Oh, God, yeah. There's been a few. But I'd probably say, and it is a classic one, but McCall, just everything about McCall. Like whenever he represents our club, I mean, we were there that day when he would. Yeah, here we go, classic McCall. We were there that day when he was up on car and falling off, and the thing is, it's the way that he's carried on as a manager. He's just a lad's lad, and I think whether it's bit him in the backside or not, but he's just a proper nice fella. Whenever you come across him, he's just all about the love of the game, and he finds those funny moments, and that bit where he fell off it. But it's the fact that he got up and laughed it off. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like modern footballers now, they'll be down and they'll be, on injury, list for about 6 months. Yeah. So whereas McCart is just a top laugh. So that, or I'd like to say the John Stead "So What" interview. I love that of it. He's like, yeah, so what? It just like epitomizes what, I don't know. We're always a bit of the maybe it comes and bites us back in the butt, but we're nobody's favourite opposition, are we? And he kind of, even though he were only on loan at that time, he came and epitomised what it means to be a Bradford City player at that time. And he was like, yeah, nobody likes us, nobody likes the decisions that go against us, but so what? Classic line. Loved it. Was that against Sunderland? Was that in the FA Cup against Sunderland when he ball? They said they weren't sure if the ball went over the line, and he just said, "So what?" It is hand. Yeah. And he went, "So what if it come off my hand?" Counts as a goal, doesn't it? So like when Aaron McLean scored one, and and then he scored one. He scored one, and it was definitely an handball. Can't remember who it were against. And Mark in the cup or something like that. Yeah, and we were also, he scores with his hands. Yeah, he couldn't score with his feet, could he? I was going to say. It's about all he could score, yeah. But no, some great examples there, Craig. Next question, I'll give it to Chris. I don't know if you can see the agenda. I'll pass it to you, mate. Yeah, so here we go. So, what is your all-time favourite City 11? All-time, starting from the back. Yeah, so I think I'll go with a 4-4-2 because I mean, number one, when you're playing lower league football, that's what you should be doing. This wing back nonsense don't get as far, does it? So, but yeah, I think it's difficult for goalkeeper because Gary Walsh was someone who I absolutely loved as a player, but for sheer kind of supporters player, Donovan Ricketts, love that man. He were class at a time where we weren't playing really good football. He was a bit of a man mountain. He were prone to a dodgy decision or two. But you know, he were a really good player. And obviously, when his work permit didn't get renewed, he went off to LA Galaxy. Had a good career after that. But yeah, Donovan Ricketts for me as a goalkeeper. Left back Wayne Jacobs all day long, all day long. The man's an absolute legend. Where you know we've had some really good kind of left backs. You know, James Meredith and stuff since. Connor Woodward half decent, but Wayne Jacobs, he used to just get the ball and tear down. And even when he didn't have the ball, you knew he was going to make that run down the wing and get hold of it and put a good cross in the box. It was fantastic with Wayne Jacobs. Centre back, this is a bit more of a difficult one. I think you've got to go Andy O'Brien. There's a reason Newcastle paid so much money for him. He were class, cool, composed. I actually met him once opening up a local supermarket on my. I lived on Woodside Estate when I was up in Bradford, and it was the most random thing. It was him and Gareth Wally just opening up the shop. So it was peak of the promotion campaign as well. So they should have been concentrating on proper stuff, but no, they were there opening a shop. So, but yeah, Andy O'Brien, and I think it's a difficult one, but I think Andrew Davies, love that guy. Like he'd dive in for an header at ground level, like just an absolute. There were no wonder he got as injured as often as he did because he just threw his whole body into every single challenge, and I loved him for it. He plays and defends the way that I like to see people play and defend. You know, that old-fashioned centre back. Right back, Stephen Darby. You can't beat it. Can't beat it. I just did a massive charity walk for him. You know, he's my classic. If I had to put a captain's armband on any of our former players, I love Stuart McCall, but Stephen Darby gets it for me. Best right back I've seen us play. So that's the defence sorted. I'm going to go controversial on left mid because it's a loan signing, and it's Matty Etherington. I don't know if you guys ever saw Matty Etherington play.
Yeah.
When he came on loan to us, there's no way he should have been playing at that level. He were already class, and you know he just saw defences apart, just no fear, like classic winger. Just ran at people and you know his delivery with class.
Were at West Ham when he came to us?
He were at West Ham. Yeah, he'd been at Peterborough. Him and Simon Davies were at Peterborough, and you know one went to West Ham, one went to Spurs, but I think Etherington, after his loan spell with us, started to do all right at West Ham. But I think he was still quite young when he come to us. But he was just a class above. You know, it was a toss up between him and Peter Beagrie. I loved Peter Beagrie, but Matty Etherington, he just got me up off my seat whenever he started running with ball. Right wing, Jamie Lawrence, love the guy. Like when he first came to us, his crossing was something to be, you know, wanted. He used to run down wing, you'd get off your seat, and then he'd spank it 50 yards into the other stand, and then all of a sudden, that promotion season, he became class, absolute class. I remember one goal he scored against Norwich where he just ran straight down the middle of the pitch, and it was like the parting of the seas. It just opened up, and he just ran and ran and ran, and then it went. And we were like, "Have we just seen Jamie Lawrence just take on like the whole of Norwich's?" Absolutely class. Yeah, and I remember the one where he scored against West Ham away, where he did a similar thing, just ran head down, didn't even look up, and then all of a sudden just chipped it, and it was straight over Stephen Bywater. I always remember that because it was Stephen Bywater's professional debut for West Ham. Yeah. And at one point, he was just shaking his head, going, "What is this game all about?" Class game.
Was that 5-4 in the end?
Yeah,
5-4 of them. Yeah, that's the one where Di Canio, after he'd been fouled for about 3 times by Gunnar Haller, he was like, "Sub me off." Yeah. And then got straight up and scored. Classic Di Canio, really. So centre mid, Gary Jones gets it for me. One of them. For a man of his kind of ripe years when he came to us, 36. Although, I'm 40 now, and I still like to hope there's a 1-year contract somewhere.
You look a bit like Gary Jones, Craig, to be fair.
Well, when I was next to him, I actually did look a lot like people would take it.
Like that Spider-Man thing. Who's who? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because when I got up to Valley Parade of a month after my walk, and I got to meet Gary Jones. My mum was like, "You do look incredibly similar." Although he's got a fine beard on him, he's got a finely trimmed beard. He's got a better barber than I have, I think. So, but yeah, I mean, he came to us at 36. He'd been classed for Rochdale. And then, some more stuff come up here. There we go. So, yeah, he'd been classed for Rochdale. And then come to us, and there wasn't much expectation, to be honest with you. He was just kind of a steady hand. That was the anticipation. And then he came in and he just ran that midfield. And the whole team just responded to him because he kind of led by example. You get these players. And you see it, like I always remember David Beckham for Greece. When we played Greece and he scored that. Beckham, England were playing so poorly that game, and then he just single-handedly lifted the whole performance of the team. Think about Roy Keane versus Juventus in Champions League semi-final. It's very rare that you see players single-handedly lift the whole team, but Gary Jones did that for a full season. We had a lot of kind of fledgling players who were finding the feet. And he was just that calm, steady rock all the way through the season. And he got our only shot on goal against Swansea. Where we all cheered, we were like, "Hey!" It was a big roller from about 30 yards, but we were on target, so we had something to cheer. So yeah, Gary Jones gets it for me there, and then the one and only Stuart McCall, absolute club legend. Nobody beats him for me. Yeah, I've spoken about him before, but he's just world class. It's a shame it never worked out for him. I've never wanted something to work out so much as Stuart McCall as our manager. I think that boat sailed now. I'd love to see him come back in a coaching capacity at some point. But yeah, an absolute legend of a player. I was lucky enough when I first started watching Bradford. I saw him first time round, and he was too good for us then. Came back when we got promoted to Premiership. He was still too good for us then. That bear in mind, he was a similar age to Gary Jones when he came to us, and he was still class. And then he was good enough to move to Sheffield United as a player at that age. Once we went back down, but he used to, and I love it. I love when I see it. You watch any old McCall highlights, and he just dives in for tackles, slides in, but every time he used to go away with ball. Every time. He never, it was very rare he'd commit a foul, but he would always down on the ground, take the player out, take the ball and pass it nicely. Class. Front two. Now, I've been thinking about this. It's quite tricky because, I did see Campbell play, but not enough to know enough about him. Whereas I'd say Dean Windass, when he came to us, we were doing well. We had Lee Mills, we had Robbie Blake, and we were doing well, and promotion were a good shout. But Dean Windass came in, and he was class. He just lifted us to that next level where we went up. And then obviously came back to us when we were struggling and scored lots of goals in those lower divisions before eventually moving back onto Hull. But yeah, so Dean Windass for me, just because of the amount of years that he put into us, the stuff he's done afterwards as well. He's a proper clubman, and just how bonkers he was as well. Yeah. Like back in the day in Premier, he was a good laugh, absolute good laugh. And then it's a toss up between Naki Wells and Robbie Blake, but I think I'm going to go Robbie Blake just because, Naki Wells as a clinical finisher was fantastic for us, absolutely fantastic. He kind of left under a bit of a cloud. That soured it a little bit for me. Why he went to Huddersfield of all places, I don't know. And I think that kind of soured it. I still love Naki Wells, but whereas Robbie Blake kind of he was forced out of our club in a way. Never really wanted to leave, and he was class for us. I don't know if you remember the play, that season, but where I talked about Jamie Lawrence had run with his head down and wouldn't necessarily know where he were going, but all of a sudden it up. Robbie Blake knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm. He'd sit people down left, right, and centre. He's the only player to have scored a goal at Valley Parade where I saw a referee clap afterwards. I think it was against Bristol City. He just sat about 3 players down and chipped it over the goalkeeper, and it was just absolute. I would always have the mind that we're going to call my first child Robbie Blake, and it never happened because once I sounded out the idea, it came back with a solid no. But yeah, Robbie Blake gets it for me. So yeah, Windass and Blake. So you're sorry.
Who would captain your team?
See, I've put a few in there, haven't I?
Yeah.
Stephen Darby for me. Darby for me. Yeah, definitely. He's just a world class fella, isn't he? So.
That comment, Chris. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to go back on the Robbie Blake bit, but we'll cut that bit. It's all right. That's fine. Going back on time.
No, I think that's a good team, mate. I think you put a message in for when we're going to cut it, I think, Chris. But yes, it's a really good team, that. To be fair, I know what you're saying with Derby. It was a really good professional, and it was sad how it ended. You know, McMahon sort of took over that right back position, and he just sort of pushed out a little bit. And did he go to Bolton? Did Parkis take him?
Yeah, he went to Bolton, didn't he? I think it was quite clear that we didn't really. I don't know if we didn't offer him terms, but for whatever reason, it just didn't quite work out in terms of a new contract, because it didn't seem like he really wanted to leave us. No. And I've said this before when I've talked about Stephen Darby, and he was one of the few players where when he's gone with my best wishes. You know, yes. I actually wanted him to go on, succeed, get back to the Premier League, just because of the effort that he put in as a player. Yeah. You know, he never give up. He'd play 90, 120 minutes, and he'd never stop. And you know, I'll always back anybody with a claret and amber shirt, but there's been a few players in recent years since those days that haven't put in that. And for me as a fan, that is all I want to see. I want to see that bare minimum that you will run around for that shirt, for that contract. It's a very privileged position being a professional footballer, and yet some of the kind of players we've had in the last few years, they've not quite got what it means to be a Bradford City player. Hopefully Hughes has turned the tide on that, and we're going to start to see those kind of players again. You know, there's been a few in our team, but not enough, I'd say.
It's like the missing piece in the jigsaw, isn't it? That central midfielder or centre back that, like you say, you know, gets the game by the scruff of the neck and drives the rest of the team on that. I think that's what we're missing, and that's the bit of the recruitment I think we're all waiting on a little bit. Personally, anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think we're probably missing. Yeah, we got, if we had one of those kind of 30+ defender or midfielder, someone who can just, you know, and maybe we do just need that experienced defender, just to kind of lead the line. I think we've got enough around us that we'll be in for a good time next season. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope.
So, what? Just before you go, mate, I think we're going to cut it now at that point. But what are you thinking of the pod so far? Have you got any feedback for us? Anything you think we can do better? Any ideas?
Yeah, no, it's looking fantastic, lads. You know, it's we get a lot of people on Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, but it's really good to do this kind of thing because you know, if you get former players on there, you got Sparks on, who whenever I've had interaction with him is a top fella. You know, and it's really good for them to get the fans on, because there's no more than Bradford City fans love talking about Bradford City, so you'll get plenty of takers. But it's just such a rich history that we've got, such a big fan base, such untapped potential. There's plenty to talk about, and they'll always be that way because we're never going to be a Man City or a Man. I'm going to say Man United there. Let's scratch that. We're never going to be a Man City or a Liverpool where you know we're going to be winning, you know, most of our games. We're always going to have ups and downs, so there's always going to be something to talk about. But that's part of the joy of being a Bradford City fan. You know, that's why I'm kind of glad my dad took me to my first game, because it'd be boring winning all those trophies all the time, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but it would. Yes, thank you, Craig, very much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your views and your team. We'll put a tweet out with Craig's team as well, and you can let us know what you think of that one. So thank you, Craig, on behalf of myself and Chris.
I belong to the valley, to
Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the podcast. We've got a special guest for you today. We've got Richard O'Donnell, former Bradford City goalkeeper, unfortunately. So welcome, Richard. How are you doing?
All good, thank you. You?
Good, mate. Very good. And can we call you Richard or Shagger? Or I mean, what would you like to be referred as, mate?
You can call me whatever you want, mate.
All right. And this chant that obviously Bradford City fans have created, is that come from anywhere apart from you just being a good-looking man? Or, I mean, is it got any context to it? I imagine not.
Not that I know of, mate, unless people have got mistaken identity. But it's funny because I think my wife first heard it when we played Mansfield away, and my lad came as well.
Oh.
And my lad were like, "What are they singing that for?" And they were like, "Don't know, really, not sure." But no, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it started at Exeter first game of the season last year, and just took off from there.
What are your thoughts on it? Good, bad, or otherwise? I mean, you seem to sort of take it in good spirit, but is it a bit embarrassing or?
No, I laugh at it, to be fair. Sometimes we play games, and obviously away games are probably, it's more evident to me because fans they tend to be louder away and they're right behind you in stadiums that are a bit smaller, so you hear it more. So sometimes I can't help but laugh while the game's going on, and it's just it's just one of them. It's all good fun, isn't it? Yeah,
it's a good one. Well, you're looking well, mate. Anyway, you've been on holiday, haven't you? I've been looking at your Instagram. You look like you've had a good time.
We have, mate. Yeah, we have. Like most people, we've not been away for 3 years, so it's been it was nice to get away. Kids loved it, which was the main thing, and yeah, we had a great time. So happy days.
Well, are you back in training at Rochdale, and are you starting at some point? When's pre-season start?
We start on Monday, a week on Monday.
Right.
I think most people are starting back any time that week, to be fair. I think Bradford are 23rd, maybe, I heard. So we're 20th. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, to be fair, mate. Obviously, it's been 4 years since I've had something new and something different. So, you know, it's a fresh challenge, and I'm looking forward to it, to be fair. It's like going back to school for the first day, isn't it? You're new people, new surroundings, but no, they've you know, I get a really good feel from the place. It's a really family oriented place. I took my kids down there a couple of weeks ago, and you know, they were brilliant with them. And obviously, speaking to the manager and that, it sounds like a good project that he's trying to put together for next season. So I'm excited for it.
Well, congratulations on the move anyway. Obviously, we're a bit gutted that you've gone, mate, but wish you all the best. And just maybe not against us. Maybe not against us. Drop a few flags if you want. We'll see how we go. So I'll pass it to Chris now to ask the first question.
So, Rich, I'm going to ask you, because obviously you played for quite a few clubs in your career. Who's the best manager you worked with and why?
So the best manager I've worked with, I'll always say the same so far. Dean Smith, who's at Walsall, and now obviously at Norwich, who's been obviously in Premier League with Villa and Norwich this season. He was brilliant. He was down to earth. Win, lose or draw, you'd come in on a Monday, you know exactly what you're going to get from him. You know, I've been in some places and some dressing rooms and some clubs and some managers where you come in on a Monday after a loss and people are scared to talk. People are thinking like, are you allowed to have a bit of a laugh still, or you know, because no one goes out on a Saturday to lose a game of football, but when you come back in on the Monday, you've got to get on with it. It is what it is. But some people and some managers that I've worked with are, you know, if you seem to be having a laugh or a joke on a Monday after you've lost, it's like end of the world, losing a game. And listen, no one likes to lose, but it's part and parcel of football. You've got to get on with it. There's no point in moping and sulking about it on a Monday. But Dean was brilliant. Like I said, win, lose or draw, you would do a debrief on the Monday, look at good things, bad things. And he was just a brilliant manager, looked after the lads. He was a real players manager in the sense that he'd look after you on and off the pitch. He was really, really good.
So it probably doesn't surprise you how well his career's come on from Walsall, really, then?
No, absolutely not. Like I say, he went to Brentford when they were in Championship and did really well there, and then got his sort of dream move to Villa. Obviously, he's a boyhood Villa fan, and his dad was a boyhood Villa fan, and I know how close he was to his dad and how proud that sort of made his dad. So it was a lovely story, him going back there and being successful, getting promoted, and then doing well in the Premier League with him. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all. He's like I say, he was brilliant. Tactically, was fantastic as well.
Awesome. So next question is a bit of a sort of a double-ended one. So who's the best player you've played with on your team, and also who's the best player that you've played against?
So I played with some good players, to be fair. When I was at Bristol City, we had Tammy Abraham on loan. He was brilliant. Lee Tomlin, he's had a bit of a tough time in recent years, Lee, but technically he was unbelievable. What a player he was. He'd do things that people wouldn't even consider trying. Romain Sawyers, when I was at Walsall with him, he was technically really, really good. Yeah, a lot of really good players, to be fair. Like look at sort of Bristol City, really, who people would remember. Well, like I say, Tammy Abraham, Joe Bryan, Bobby Reid, Aidan Flint, Aaron Wilbraham, who's retired now, but what a top pro he was. He was fantastic. People like that, and then playing against. It's a tough one, that really. I remember when I made my debut at Sheffield Wednesday, we played Southampton away. And there was like Oxlade-Chamberlain playing, Lambert, people like that, Fonte, centre half. There were some top players playing there. I was lucky enough to actually play against like Walcott and Bale when they were in like Southampton sort of youth team when I was at Sheffield Wednesday as well. And they were brilliant. Like, yeah, Gareth Bale was just a joke at that age even. And then obviously like just through cup games and stuff, you play against good Premier League players playing in them. But again, playing at Championship, there's a lot of very, very good players in the Championship. So there's a lot of players who are. Like I say, I remember that Sheffield Wednesday, my debut game, because obviously it was my club, and not they are my club, and making my debut for them was special. And obviously, like I say, playing against like Oxlade-Chamberlain and players like that. So it were. I just remember that more than any.
Yeah. So obviously you left Walsall to join Bradford. What made you do that? What was it about Bradford that inspired you to come and join us?
Yeah, so I left Northampton to come to Bradford. Yeah. And it was one of them for me that I think someone said it when I actually left, that a few years before when I actually left Walsall, I did come into Bradford. I met Parky a couple of times and sort of nearly signed then. I ended up signing for Wigan because they'd just been relegated from Championship, and they had still really good players and a massive budget to sort of try and get back up. They had parachute payments still from Premier League because they actually had a couple of bad seasons, so they were in a really strong position. So I made that choice to go there then. But it's always a club, obviously, when you're reasonably local to a club like Bradford, that you look at and think, yeah, that's somewhere you'd want to go and play. Obviously, the stadium, the fan base, and everything sort of speaks for itself. And I suppose when you're sort of like a Yorkshire lad, it's one of them clubs that you look at and think, yeah, I'd love to go and play there one day. And obviously, I was lucky enough to go and do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we had a very difficult season. Obviously, League One, obviously off the field, it seemed to fall apart. Was it obvious to the players what was going on behind the scenes? Was there a bit of turmoil going on because of that?
It was pretty obvious that there was a lot of discontent around the club with the chairman. It was pretty obvious, and I mean my personal dealings with Edin were fine, really. When I met him, he was there when I signed, and he was sort of fine with me personally. But at the same time, obviously, I didn't really agree with a lot of things that were going on at the club at the time. And even before I came, I heard stories of people who had been around the club for a long, long time, 20 odd years, like getting sacked from the club, and then obviously being sort of working with him at the club at that time, it was difficult because obviously the fans didn't like him, obviously for a lot of reasons, and so yeah, you could tell it doesn't affect the players as such. You can't use that as an excuse for the poor season, because we had a very, very good squad, and to be fair to Edin, he signed a lot of very good players that year. It just didn't click together and didn't work, and I know like I said, they paid a lot of money on wages and transfers in that season for players, so you can't sort of blame him for that side of things. But things that were going on behind the scenes, you sort of hear, and obviously I'd like to think I'm a man of principle, and I didn't agree with a lot of the things that were going on and what I heard.
And have you got an example of anything? I mean, I don't know if you can share it with us, but is there anything that went on that you're a bit like, well, that's not quite right?
No, I mean, like obviously Mickey and Drew were two very young sort of managers, and I think that Eddie sort of used that at times to sort of try and manipulate as much as he could and try and do things his way. I think that was pretty obvious. You know, I can remember after 2 or 3 games, maybe 4 games in the season, Eddie pulled me and I think it was the rest of the lads that actually signed that summer. He pulls us into the office and sort of saying like, "What's going on? Like, you lot need to be better," and this, that, and the other. And you know, we sort of just putting the blame on us and sort of saying like, "You lot need to do better. You lot need to, you know, pull this together with all the lads and turn this around." And we're only 3 or 4 games in the season at this point, and I'm thinking it's not quite right that the chairman's pulling us in. This was at the training ground, and obviously he was around the training ground quite a bit, which is not too uncommon. It happens. Chief execs and chairman are always hanging around. You don't have a problem with that, but you sort of want them to just, you know, keep themselves to themselves and let people do what they need to do. And I just found that quite odd that he pulled us in after a few games and sort of tried to give us a bit of a rallying call. Really, like I say, it was still very early on in the season, and for me, that should be them sort of things should be left to the managers and the manager. But yeah, I mean, again, he used to sort of text me on a. I remember once he texted me at like 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night when we had a game, and he texted me just saying like, "Come on, you need to get the lads like up for this game and this, that, and the other." And I'm thinking, well, yeah, obviously I will. That's sort of what I try and do. But it's just a bit odd that he's texting me at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night when we've got a game at the same time. So, listen, again, for me, like personally, he did nothing to me for me to sort of dislike him. But there was, like I said, there was things where you're thinking it's not quite right and stuff. But and like I said, just hearing stories of what sort of happened the year before and stuff, you sort of got a feel for why the fans sort of disliked him.
Yeah,
Things have changed a little bit.
Sorry, it's true that his office used to be above the training ground, right? And he used to watch out and watch you guys.
No, not really. I mean, you can't even from where the sort of changing rooms in our building is at the training ground. You can't see the training pitches anyway.
Right.
So he couldn't see that. Like I say, he came to the training ground. I don't think he actually had an office at the training ground. There was the manager's room and then the coach's room.
Right.
There's not really much room at the. Yeah, there's not really much room at the training ground for to have the chairman having an office, to be honest. So no, he never had an office there, but he was there, which is not uncommon. A lot of people do. Chief execs like Ryan now comes quite often and either watches training or comes in for dinner and has, you know, sits around the lads and then has a chat with the manager and the coaches. It's not uncommon. But like I say, like Ryan, for example, would just leave. Like he'd sit and talk to the lads, but he would never get the lads in and sort of start asking questions and this, that, and the other. He'd leave that to the person in charge.
Yeah.
So you talked about obviously Tuesday night at 6 o'clock there. This one's a little bit left field and might catch you by surprise a little bit. But I run these Twitter spaces and a chap came on and said that Theo Robinson had 6 cheeseburgers before a match once on a Tuesday night. Now, I don't. Can you confirm or deny that, Richard?
Listen, I can't confirm or deny that because I wouldn't know whether he did or not. But I would like to think he didn't. And I wouldn't have thought he did. I would never say he did do that. I don't know where someone's got that from, unless he's seen him personally do it.
Well, apparently he did it at the Forster Square McDonald's. He ordered 6 before a game on a Tuesday night, and then I think somebody got injured in the warm-up, so he ended up starting. But like I say, it could be a load of rubbish. But I thought I'd ask you, mate.
I'm not even sure who could eat 6 burgers from McDonald's, especially.
That's true.
I'm not sure that'd happen, mate. To be fair, no, I don't think Theo would do that.
So on the ridiculous side, then, have you got any sort of funny stories while you've been at Bradford about any of the players or anything that went on? Anything you can think of?
Oh dear, funny stories. There's always been like different bits of Christmas do's flying around, but generally I can't think of anything that particularly stands out. I mean, Christmas do's are just funny, full stop. Obviously, we didn't have one for a couple of years because of COVID, and we were supposed to go this year, and it got called off last minute because COVID sort of came back, didn't it, towards Christmas, and things got closed down a bit again. We were supposed to go into Manchester, but trying to think if there's anything that were. There's a good one with Levi this year. Levi would. I'm not sure he'd really appreciate me telling everyone, to be honest. So I don't know if I can, but
I'll do it. It'll be right.
I think he got. I don't know if I can tell you. I don't. If it were me, I don't like people telling.
You've got to now. You've committed, Rich. Come on.
Basically, the lads offered him money to do something, and he did it. and they were never going to pay him. But I'm not going to tell you what it were, because it hygienically it was horrendous.
Brave? Would you say we're brave? Brave or stupid, or both?
Stupid. Levi's stupid. I'm not a bit afraid to say that. He's stupid. Some of the things he comes out with. I'm trying to think of some comments he's come out with before, but he'd say it and you'd literally sat there thinking, "Are you being serious?" And he'd be deadly serious. Like randomly, just come out with something like, he said something about travelling to the moon or something one day, but it was ridiculous, and everyone's just like looking at him thinking, "Are you being serious?" But he's deadly serious. He just comes out with things that no one did even think of.
Is he intelligent, or is he a bit dim? Then would you say, like, what side of the coin would?
I wouldn't even say he's not intelligent. I think he's just. I don't know. He's not. I wouldn't say he's intelligent. I'd be doing him a disservice. I didn't say he was intelligent, but he just comes out with some things, and you're thinking, where are you coming from here? Like, bizarre. I mean, Andy Cook's same sometimes. He comes out with some belters.
Yeah.
Him and Callum are like Chuckle Brothers, because they argue like mad.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're thinking, God, this is going to kick off a bit here. But they're always at it all the time. Gilly says they're at it all the time in Gar, and they're just like Chuckle Brothers. Honestly, they're all the time. Like as soon as they come into the building, they'd be on each other, and it'd get a bit serious sometimes. But then, like, one of them would walk away. We'd all be laughing, and then they come back in 10 minutes later, laughing again. But that Levi one. I wish I could tell you properly, but yeah.
Maybe when we stop the cameras rolling at the end, mate, and you can share it with us, and we'll.
As long as you don't tell everyone, I'll do that.
No, I have heard that about Levi before. I did when we said funny questions. I thought, funny stories. I thought Levi's going to come out of this, because I have heard he's quite a character. So it doesn't surprise me.
Levi's done that. Leave it. I'll have to think while we're going about Levi, because he's come up with some good stuff, Levi. I mean, his video when he signed was bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah. We asked Ryan about that, and he basically said that it was the production team did it, but what on earth, crazy, just didn't make any sense.
I sent him link, and I'm like, "What's it?" Like, just like laughing faces. I'm like, "What's this?" And he was like, "Oh mate, they've stitched me up massively." But obviously, remember when Andy Cook did that celebration at Colchester? That Batista one from wrestling. Obviously, you sort of got like, but Levi never did anything like that, so I didn't see where it sort of came in. It was just bizarre.
He's got to do like a sliver on pitch when he scores or something, like a rattle.
He's got to score. You don't get far enough forward.
So just getting us back on like a bit of a serious point. Well, you can think about the story. I can't wait to hear something else. So this one, again, it's up to you if you want to answer it or not. But is there a fundamental issue at Bradford City? Because since you've been here, let's be fair, things haven't gone to plan. It's just been like it's coming all the way down on it like a roller coaster. So on that point, what do you think about that? And do you think that Mark Hughes might get things right from working with him? Do you think he's a man that might take us forward?
It's hard for me to sort of comment on fundamental issues at the club. I mean, the one thing I would say that I think sort of Ryan has got like right more so now than it were. I mean, I think that like during the first like 2 years or so, we would go through, obviously we were going through a lot of managers, but every manager, when he had a transfer window, recruited players for his style of play. And then another manager would come in who's got a different style of play. And then you've got these players for another 2 years and stuff. So, for example, we had Martin and Mickey for the first, like when I first signed, and they wanted to play football. And then David Hopkin came in and he wanted us to hoof it. And the summer window, we signed players who wanted to play football. So it was a bit like, well, you're signing these players and now it's a totally different style of play. Then we went, obviously Gary wanted to play a bit of football. Stuart wanted to play football, and Derek obviously didn't want to play football. So you're having these different sort of styles, and I just think if you look at successful teams throughout the leagues, really, I mean, look at Forest Green in our league. They recruit managers and players who play, and managers who want to play a certain way, and they recruit that regardless of who the manager is. They recruit players for a certain way, and they recruit managers for a certain way of playing. Whereas I think that we sort of didn't do that for a long time. Obviously, Ryan, to be fair, you know, he's went out and got Derek in the summer, last summer. And who would have argued with that when that happened? I don't think anyone really would have. He just got promoted on a, you know, like probably a smaller budget. He's had promotions before. So even from players' point of view, you're thinking, well, you know, he's had success, so it's going to be good for us. And obviously, it didn't work out that way. But now the gaffer, obviously, Mark Hughes is coming now. He's obviously got a certain way of playing, which you could see coming more and more through towards the end of the season. And obviously now he's sort of recruiting them sort of players in this window to sort of play what he wants to play. So where he felt it needed strengthening and where they could get better, he's sort of doing that now. And I think that's just something that they sort of need to keep on with now. If they've got that sort of philosophy of football through the football club, I think that sort of needs to stick. And I think, like I say, Ryan's going the right way about doing that, which is credit, because I think that's sort of, like I say, if you look at the successful teams through the leagues, that's what they do, and that's what they recruit. They recruit people for the club's philosophy, whether it's managers or players, and they stick to it. Yeah,
absolutely. And talking about managers, and you touched on the man that I'm going to ask you the question about now, Derek Adams. So obviously, for fans looking at maybe the start of the season, we were absolutely buzzing. We thought we were going up as champions, and then it just sort of turned sour pretty quickly over Christmas and beyond. So at some point, did the dressing room think it's not right here? Were the arguments in there? Were people not enjoying the football? Can you divulge any information about your opinion on Derek and where it went wrong, in your opinion?
No, I mean, what I would say about Derek is that I don't think there's one sort of fan, if they're being honest with themselves, that when he got the job, you were thinking, yeah, that's a poor appointment. You can't have been. Us as players, we were thinking, well, he's going to give us the right chance of getting up and this, that, and the other. I mean, it's hard for me to sort of say. Obviously, everyone knows why the sort of fans turned against him, because how he came across at times in the press and stuff like that. Obviously, that's not sort of for me to sort of go into and why he said it and how he came across. That's nothing to do with me. But all I say is, as players, whoever the manager is, you play to how that manager wants to play. So obviously Derek was quite direct. We didn't play out much. I mean, I always remember. I go back to David Hopkin quite a lot. I mean, I like David Hopkin. He was a really good guy. But David Hopkin wanted to boom it. And I always remember getting stick for it because I was kicking the ball long every time to Owen Doyle. But that's what he wanted me to do. So as a player, you do what the manager wants you to do. So if I weren't doing that, there's a chance I wasn't going to be playing in the team. But I remember fans going, "Oh, why is he kicking it long to Doyle all the time? He's not going to win it in air." Blah blah blah. Well, that's what. Surely you can see that's what. I'm not doing it for the sake of it, because it weren't really working. But that's what the manager wants us to do, and that's what you do. That's, as players, that's what you do. You do what he told you to. And Derek was the same. Like I said, we had a really good start to the season, but then for whatever reason, it tailed off. And like I said, by the end of it, it sort of got a little bit sort of out of hand with sort of how it all came together in terms of like what he was saying. And like I say, it's not for me to say why he was saying it or what he was really saying, but obviously people didn't appreciate it, and it sort of went, like you say, it went a little bit sour.
Well, we saw like the Finkles and Dawson thing that I know you can't say it, but that's probably what partly you're alluding to, and the fact that the club captain moved to Barrow. I mean, as fans, you're thinking, what is going on here? You know, it was crazy times. When the club captain moved as a player, I mean, does that change things in the dressing room, or how did you feel about that one?
No, I mean, like, to be fair to I remember obviously when the gaffer came out and said that about Finn, and I didn't agree with it. Like as a player, I don't really agree with anyone coming out after games and blaming individual players, whether they're young, old, or whatever. I don't particularly agree with that. But Derek had done it before, So he wouldn't. He's not thinking that, well, Finn's a young lad, so I've got to protect him. He would just do it to whoever sort of it was, whether it be Niall or Finn or me, or that's sort of just how he was. So people just sort of got on with that. But when Niall left, we were all really shocked. Like, no one knew anything about it really. Obviously, we played on the Saturday, and by I think it was it deadline day on the Monday? I think it was.
Yeah.
Or something. It was literally a couple of days later. Niall had gone, and obviously, like, as soon as he'd gone, I rang him, and he was like, "Yeah, it started yesterday, and this, that, and the other." And I was like, "Wow." Obviously, the gaffer sort of said he could go, and that's obviously, if he hadn't said that, he wouldn't have gone anywhere. So, as soon as a manager tells you can go, then obviously from Niall's point of view or any player's point of view, then you have to look, because you're probably not going to be in his plans going forward. You're probably not going to play. So, to be fair, we were all shocked, and but I mean, it's one of them in football. We were shocked, and like, obviously, like, well, most of the lads, I'm guessing, there might be some lads who didn't like Niall, I don't know, but most of the lads were disappointed to see Niall leave. Like, I got on really well with Niall. I still do, speak to him a lot. But at the same time, that sort of football, people come and go, and it can happen just like that, and people move on all the time. But yeah, it was a strange one, because, like I say, no one really expected it.
Yeah, I mean, as Adam said, us fans, it was bizarre. It just seems like,
I've lost you.
He's still there.
I'll have to just put you on here, I think, because I think the lad's turned his iPad on and I can't hear you now.
It's all right, though. That audio's fine. As long as you can hear us.
Can you hear me still all right like that, yeah?
Yeah, you can still hear you, pal.
Yeah, so.
1 sec, I'm just going to put that in. 26, 20. Where we're at. Yeah, so I'll start again. So yeah, for us fans, to be honest with you, when we saw that Niall had gone, we were all just, it just seemed like, for instance, there was Crankshaw before that as well, where I think he made an assist, and he was on the radio and he'd mentioned about it, and then the next thing you knew, Cranks had gone. And obviously Finn Cousin Dawson and Canavan. But anyway, I think that's in the past now, I think. Well, let's talk about something else. So I want to ask you, what's your favourite memory from playing for Bradford City?
Favourite memory?
It's not been that bad, mate.
Tough one.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere.
No, it's a tough one, because like I really, it'll sound mad, but like that last game, even though I didn't play and I was walking around with my kids and that, like the reception I got was really nice. So I saw it straight away. I sort of think of that, but I shouldn't, because obviously I played 100 odd games. But that sort of springs to my mind straight away, because it's probably the last thing that obviously happened. And yeah, I mean, obviously the proudest thing was obviously being named captain and having just over a season as captain. It was. Obviously, Stuart put that trust in me, and I think people might disagree. You know, that is what it is. But I give everything I could through the 4 years, obviously. But being captain with that extra special bit, and I tried to give everything on and off the pitch to try and sort of bring the club together, especially off the pitch. I think it's important to sort of bring players closer to the fans and the community. I think it's really important at any club, especially like a club like Bradford, where, you know, it's a huge fan base. If you can get the fans on board with what you're doing, it makes things a lot easier. So that's obviously a highlight, being made captain, and whether it was success for me would have been getting promoted. So obviously, ultimately, it wasn't successful in terms of that, but it's still very, very proud moment for me to do that for such a big club.
I think the fans will agree that you've been, you know, an icon really for Bradford City, you know, for the young fans, because my nephew actually gave him your gloves, and I think you did it for quite a few kids on that last game. You were giving gloves away and stuff, and, you know, to you, it's probably something to note to do that, but to those kids, it means absolute world. And I think, you know that yourself, you know, you probably come from a working class environment in Sheffield or Rotherham, I think. I can't remember exactly where you're from, but you get it. And I think that's why you were so loved and what have you. And to be honest, it's such a shame to see you go. And I mean, asking this question directly as well, is it something that you wanted? Did you need to go to sort of further your career? Is it just like a fresh page, or what are your thoughts on leaving Bradford City?
Well, it's a tough one, because if I probably got offered something, I would probably have stayed because
Right.
I loved it there. But then now I've sort of left, and I've got something fresh. I sort of think it was probably the right time for me to go. At the same time, obviously I wasn't playing for the last sort of 4 or 5 months, whatever it was. So really, it was probably time for me to go. Like looking at it from the outside, like now where I am in this position. But like I say, if I'd have got offered something, I'd have been obviously seriously considering it because I loved it there. My family loved it there. My little lad's he's a Bradford fan really now because when he got into football, I was at Bradford and sort of been there for 4 years since he started liking football. So he's like sort of telling him I was leaving even was difficult because he loves it. He loves coming and he says even now he says he supports Bradford. So we'll be coming back to see some games and stuff, no doubt. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm in a fortunate position where I got fixed up quite quickly with a club, and I'm delighted about that. So now I can sit back and reflect, and I think it probably was the right time for me to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think you've got how many seasons do you think you've got left in yourself, Richard? Then you think you're going to go to your 40, or what's your plans? Are you going to play until a certain point and go into coaching, or what are your thoughts?
I haven't really got any thoughts, mate, because genuinely, I feel as good as I did like a few years ago, like 8 years ago. I don't feel my body feels fine. Don't feel any less fit. I don't feel any less powerful. I think it's just one of them things that you sort of know when you know. I've got no age, or I think I'm going to finish. I am going to hopefully go into coaching. That's what I want to do. I've just applied for my A license in goalkeeping. So I want to try and get that done in next year or so if I get onto it. And I'm sort of doing some work at Sheffield Wednesday Academy now, doing the goalkeepers there, just to sort of get me ready for that. Whether that might be 3, 4, 5, 6 years on, whatever it may be. I wanted that little bit of experience in my coaching to sort of help me when I do finish to sort of go into a decent job, hopefully. But yeah, in terms of, I'm only 33. I could have 5, 6, 7 years left. And like I say, I think it's just one of the things that you sort of know when you know. But at the minute, like I say, my body feels like it did when I was 20, 24, 25. I feel no worse. I feel fitter than I've ever been, really. So I don't feel it's not even something that's popping into my head.
That's fair, mate.
Yeah, so I've got 2 last questions for you, Rich. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. So first of all, the first question is, who is the best mascot in League 2?
Best mascot? What was the one at there was a really strange mascot this year, and I can't remember who it was. Oh, what was it? It was a proper strange looking mascot, and everyone was like, "What the bloody hell is that?"
Was it the boiler?
It probably Chris.
It was.
Was it Chris in crowd?
Yeah,
it could have been.
It was.
Well,
the answer is probably Billy Bantam. Is it Billy Bantam?
It's not.
No, well, that last game of the season, my little girl was obsessed with Billy Bantam, so she was giving him cuddles all day. But then, like I say, we went to Rochdale last a couple of weeks ago, and I had to buy 2 Desmond Dragon teddies from shop for my kids as well. So their favourite is now Desmond Dragon, unfortunately. So yeah, I couldn't really tell you the best one. I'm gonna have to say Desmond Dragon because he's my kid's favourite at the minute.
There you go. It's not the giraffe, is it? You're on about, Richard? Sutton. That Mark Hughes got a picture. Where a giraffe?
It could have been. Yeah, it might have been actually.
Yeah, it just came in my head then. But yeah, I'm glad you didn't say Billy Bantam anyway, mate.
Yes, me too.
No.
And last question for you, Rich. You walk into a magic restaurant, you've got every single meal you could ever imagine, okay? And they can recreate anything you want. What you're having for your starter, what you're having for your main, and what you're having for your dessert.
Right. Starter, I would go fully loaded nachos. I'm a big nacho fan. So I'll go cheese, jalapenos, sour cream, guacamole, the beef on top, everything. Fully loaded. Main meal. Main. Is this one of them where it's like your last meal, or is this like?
Yeah.
I'm not like dying or anything, am I?
I hope not. I hope not, Rich. No.
Depends. Would that
That's
change
all
your mind? If you're going to die afterwards, does it make a difference?
Probably. Maybe, yeah. Because I probably like if it was on my last meal, I'd probably go for like a big, massive burger stack or something, just a big greasy thing, like.
Not 6 of them. No.
Otherwise, I might go for like a. I might
Robinson
go for like a nice pasta. I love pasta, so yeah. If it's not my last meal, I'd go for some sort of like a creamy sort of pasta.
Yeah, like a carbonara sort of style.
If it's my last meal, I'd go for a big stack burger or something like that.
All right. And dessert, what are you saying?
Dessert, I would probably go cheesecake.
So, what sort of cheesecake?
Yeah, I'm thinking lemon. I love a lemon cheesecake.
Oh, I'm with you, 100%. It's a nice palate cleanser, isn't it? Lemon. Yeah.
Yeah, lemon cheesecake's good. I'm not a massive sweet fan, to be fair, in terms of like desserts and stuff. I love sweets.
Yeah.
But I'm not like a big like cake lover or stuff like that, really. So yeah, I pick sweets normally.
Just before we tie off, you said cheesecake, so I'm going to ask you another question. I know Chris said it's the last one, but we put a tweet out and we asked fans, you might have seen these actually, we asked fans to ask you some questions, and this one was bizarre. They've asked what your favourite cheese is.
Favourite cheese? I did see that actually. I think I'd just go for it. I like halloumi.
Yeah.
But I'm a sucker for a bit of brie at Christmas time, like.
Yeah.
Yes.
That were one. That were a Levi one. He called it
Go
brie.
Brie.
What's this brie cheese here? Brie. Honestly, that's just him in a nutshell. Stuff he'd come out with, brie.
Yeah.
Brie cheese. Oh god.
Brilliant. We'll sign off there. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate, to have you. Thank you very much for coming on, and honestly, you've been an absolute gentleman and a model professional for us, and we wish you all the best in your future career, mate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. No problem. Been a pleasure.
Cheers.
I belong to the valley to see the city.
And now on to our next feature. So it's the one that everybody seems to like on Twitter. It is Quizzyuptheguy. So are you ready for all the questions this week, Chris?
Actually, you know what? I think we're going to mix it up a little bit because I've done so shit over the last couple of weeks. So we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to ask you some questions for a change. We're going to play Who Wants to Be William's Heir.
That is shite. Can't get on board with that.
No, but I'm going to ask you some questions this time. Let's test your knowledge. I think it's time to test your knowledge and see how much you know about City. Now, I've not tried to make these incredibly difficult, so let's see how well you do. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Question 1. Bradford City were looking to get into the Premiership, and they bought Dean Windass to help us get there. But who did we sign him from? And bonus point, how much? Where did we sign Dean Windass from, and how much was it?
Middlesbrough.
I'll go for the money.
200 grand.
No, absolutely terrible. Oxford United, we signed him, and we bought him for initial 950k. However, that turned to 1 million once we got promoted to the Premiership. So it was Oxford. Okay,
you wouldn't think it'd be that. I can't believe they had him that far south, to be honest. You think he'd get a nosebleed, wouldn't you, going down there? But anyway, there we go.
Well, yeah, that's it.
He did play. He went to Middlesbrough after us, didn't he? They signed him from us.
He did, yeah. In the second year Premiership, he did, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this one you should get right. Okay, Valley Parade. What is to the nearest 100 the capacity?
It's 23 or 25, isn't it? Or is it 26? I'm going to say 23,500.
Oh, do you know what? 25,136.
So I knew it was not other 23 or 25.
0 for 0. I don't think you're going to get this next one, but we'll see. Jeffrey Richmond became the chairman in 1994. Frank Stapleton was the manager at the time. However, who was Jeffrey's first managerial appointment at City?
94.
Yeah.
So wasn't the manager already in place?
He was a manager, but that was Frank Stapleton, so he was sacked. So who was his first appointment? 5, 4,
Cammy, but it's not.
2, 1. You going with Cammy?
Yeah, I know it's not, but
No, it's not. It's Lenny Lawrence. However, Cammy was in after Lenny Lawrence, so you weren't far away. Okay, so we're 0 for 0 so far.
can I just say that I've never said that I'm a quiz
listen, we're just doing the quiz. We're just doing the
I'm not-
quiz. Okay, let's just
Go
carry on.
Go on then.
Omar Daly was somewhat of a hero at Bradford City, playing 106 games and scoring 13 goals. Who did he join permanently at the end of his contract in 2011? So after he left Bradford City.
Oh my god, I'm gonna get 0 on this quiz. Preston.
No.
Did Jermaine Johnson go there? I think Jermaine Johnson went to Preston, didn't he?
Did he not go to? Was it not Blackpool? Anyway, you're wrong. Anyway, the answer is Motherwell.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So, yeah, it was indeed. He did have a loan spell at Rotherham, but he went to Motherwell. Which manager did he join at that time? This isn't a question, but which manager did he join? Yeah.
Stuart? No,
Stuart.
Stuart. What it?
It was Stuart, yeah. Okay.
Do I get a point? Give me a point.
No.
0.5. Half a point.
Get a point. Get half a point. I'll give you half a point.
Thanks.
Okay. Bradford beat Aston Villa in the first leg of the League Cup semi-final in 2013. Who got the last goal to win 3-1 at Valley Parade?
Gary Thompson.
It wasn't Gary Thompson. It was Carl McHugh.
The header, that proper beauty of an header.
It was an absolute... Yes, it was. Great
Who
header.
did Gary Thompson score against? Was that Arsenal?
It was Arsenal. It was Arsenal. Indeed, it was.
This is bad.
What position did Bradford finish last season in?
16th.
It was 14th.
I think I'm going to pack it in now.
This one you should get. This one you should get. I'm expecting you to get this one. Okay. So who is the oldest player to ever play for Bradford City? And I'm going to give you a bonus point if you could tell me their age.
Neville Southall.
It was Neville Southall.
We're 40.
Now, how old was he?
40.
He wasn't. He was 41, 5 months and 25 days.
Take that, big Nev.
Go on, I'll give you an extra point. Who was that against?
He played against?
Yeah.
What year were it? 98?
It'll be either 99 or 2000.
Wimbledon.
It wasn't. It was Leeds.
Was it?
It was Leeds.
No, God, did we get battered?
No, at the end of that quiz.
Is that 10 questions?
No, there was some bonus points in there as well, you see. So at the end of that round, I'm going to give you, let's see, what did you get?
1.5.
Oh, I've missed one at questions. I apologise. I'll give you this question at the end.
Well, can you say this isn't happening again, is it? Go on.
Which Portuguese striker signed for Bradford when in the Premiership in January 2000?
Oh, I know this one.
5.
Oh, I know it because he flopped. He was shit.
2. 1. Come on, just give me an answer. Just give me anything.
His name. I sound like the Cookie Monster then. I can't think of his name. I know exactly what it is.
George Cadet.
Yeah, because he flopped. He was rubbish, wasn't he?
He was indeed. He was.
All I could think of was Willie Top, but I knew it wasn't Willie Top because he's Chilean, isn't he?
It was. So we got a massive 1.5.
Wow. So that's highly embarrassing, and it's never happening again. In fairness, and do you know what? Them questions weren't even that difficult. So
They were.
yeah.
But see, when the pressure's on, your mind just goes, doesn't it?
Yes, your mind does go, but I didn't use any kind of Google search engine or anything like that. So I think I deserve an extra half a point just for doing that. You know.
I think so somehow.
That was right. I'm embarrassed, but you know what? We move. Well, thank you for that, Chris. That's added a bit of spice to the mix. Probably a spice that needs removing again, mate. But, you know, it's good fun.
Hey, I tell you what, it's quite exciting who we've got up next. Tell them who we've got up next.
What? Oh, in which? Oh, okay, in the next pod. We've got Jamie Rayner coming on.
To the place I belong, to the valley, to see the city.